Dear reader slash listener, if you are beginning this audio version of Taught on week 9, I would advise going back to listen to weeks 1 through 8 and the foreword and prologue. All videos are on the YouTube channel Taught at Taught 2022. I wish I had had the foresight to put this message on each video, but when I started this project, I wasn't sure anyone would even listen. Having said that, this character's journal will make much more sense if you start at her beginning. Thank you for reading, listening, a teacher. Taught, week 9. Sunday, October 16th, 2016, 7 a.m. Yesterday was the best day ever. Paulo and I went on a date. We got a babysitter and went to a Michael Franti concert. My legs are still sore from dancing. Michael freaking Franti came out into the crowd and his foot touched my arm as he climbed over this gate thingy I was standing next to. Actually, I'm a little grossed out by this. His feet were bare and pretty damn disgusting. But it was awesome. I cannot wait to tell my students. They will be so jelly. Jelly's the middle school word for jealous. Afterwards, Paulo and I made out in the car until a security guard scared the shit out of us and made us leave. On the drive home, Paulo brought up me quitting my job again. And then we fantasized about a life where neither of us worked and we got to enjoy our kid and grow organic vegetables. We bought a lottery ticket at the gas station down the street from our apartment since this seemed to be the quickest, most logical route to living our dream life. Monday, October 16th, 2016, 4 p.m. It would seem that most 8th graders don't even know who Michael Franti is. Okay, none of them knew. And jelly is no longer a thing, unless the thing is publicly shaming your English teacher for being uncool. Tuesday, October 17th, 2016, 4 p.m. I swear to God, Pauline is not going to make it until Maureen comes back. Pretty sure she thinks her job is to mentor me. Every day, there is a new little printout or note in my box or on my desk of some little something she thinks we should try lesson wise, or some flaw she finds with the lesson plans that were left for her. Maureen and I did those together. Of course, I ignore all of it. And then I get these 1,000-word emails or text messages in case I lost her note in all my papers. She's happy to help me with organization. This woman wears her control freak like a prize mink stole. I'm convinced she's living at the school right now. She gets there before me, and she stays late every night. When I came in on Sunday, she was there when I got there and still there 3 hours later when I left. Anita sent me an email today saying she'd given Pauline access to our intervention database and tools, and would I head over on my plan time to give her a tutorial. I want to do this as much as I want to stick a fork in my eye. But I do smile to myself when I think about how much Pauline must have harassed Anita for Anita to get her entered into our intervention system. So, being the awesome mentor that I am, I head to Pauline's room after filling my coffee up. I will need a lot of energy for this. This is how I justify having a third cup of coffee for the day. Put together Pauline looks anything but when I walk in. If frustration had a face, Pauline was wearing it. So, on my way to get my coffee in the lounge, I also made a bunch of copies of all the procedures, along with a calendar of testing and some tips and hints for making this intervention system work for you. Just saying, if you need tips and hints to make a $30,000 computer program work for you, you have in fact purchased the snake oil from the con man. Anyway, I had put all of this in a tidy blue folder with tabs that labeled what pieces were what. After telling her why I was there, she grudgingly brought up the program and we began our training session. I noticed that my file folder was tossed to the side. Okay, it is impossible to train someone who knows everything. Would one attempt to explain to Dr. Jane Goodall what a gorilla was? No. Okay, that's a poor example because Dr. Goodall does know everything there is to know about gorillas, whereas Pauline knows next to nothing about our intervention database. After 15 exhausting minutes of her saying, "Yes, I know," then not being able to figure out what I had just explained, I told her in a very exasperated way that since she knew all of this, she could just come to me if she had questions. She agreed this was for the best. And then I asked a stupid question. I asked her if she was okay. Thankfully, we both only had 10 minutes before our next group of kids came in. She bitched about everything under the sun. You would think she was the only person in the school with 7 classes of students grading and planning. Except she has no grading or planning. But she is making copies of everything that she's sending to Maureen. Maureen's still grading most of the writing assignments. So she's doing this so she can grade the assignments too and ensure that they are on the same page. I swear to God, the audacity of this woman. She confides to me that she also has been emailing Maureen daily to keep her up to date on what is going on. However, she has not heard back and is beginning to wonder if it is a waste of her time. If I could get a word in edgewise, I would tell her, yes, it is a waste of your time. Because Maureen's mom is dying and she doesn't care about whether you grade a writing project as an 82% and she gave it an 84%. Pauline also complains about her students like she's had them for years. It's been a little over a week. Some things have to be earned, like the right to complain about our kids. They are not hers. She has not been hammering them over the head with grammar for 1 to 2 years. I feel like someone is complaining to me about having a cold when I have pneumonia. Thank God the bell rang before she moved on to colleagues. Wednesday, October 18th, 2016, 4 p.m. Ugh, parent teacher conferences. I got my initial list of conference times today. In middle school, we let the parents schedule their conferences. If I really have someone that is failing miserably or having a major issue, like one year I had a kid that hugged me all the time, like when I was teaching a lesson and he was an eighth grader, then I will contact that parent and attempt to schedule a conference. Surprisingly, those are typically the families that won't call me back or show up for the conference. Go figure. What I'm looking at now is 4 hours Monday evening and 4 hours Wednesday evening of 15-minute back to back sessions with two types of parents, helicopter or pissed. Because typically, these are the only two parental types that really look forward to conferences. They sign up early to guarantee their spot. I don't know which type is worse, really. The helicopter parent always wants reassurance that their straight A student still has an A. Things never go well if they have a B. The conference turns into me defending my grading practices and emphasizing that a B is still above average. It's just not perfect. Since I don't give out a lot of A's, I have to have this conversation all the time. Short version: students earn grades. I don't give them or get to make them up, and all writers can improve. Always. There might also be a component of blame on a district, state, and nation that forced grammar, spelling, and basic writing skills to take a back seat to reading comprehension. Depends on the family questioning my grading practices. I should say, though, that these only make up about 25% of my overall parents, because for each of these families, there are an equal and far greater number of families that just don't care. Helicopter parents are also the ones that might actually want to discuss what I'm teaching and why I am making the curriculum decisions that I am making. This is the danger zone because if I make it too simplistic, they will convince themselves that their kid is not being challenged. If I make it too complex, they will want me to help them find a tutor and then make plans to attend the next school board meeting to challenge the curriculum selection committee. The helicopter parents can evolve, or maybe devolve, dissolve, into pissed parents if I don't toe the line just so. Now, a true pissed parent comes in that way, and they are determined to stick to their guns. These are my specialty. And I've been invited to many conferences I did not want to be at to de escalate some furious family. The key is to let them vent their frustration, all the while remembering all the things I actually do like about their kiddo. When they get when they get most of it out, I first validate their frustration. Phrases like, that must be tough. I'm sorry you're going through this. And then I tell them all those things I was just thinking because it's their kid. And chances are, in these families, oftentimes they don't hear very many positives. And that's it. Usually, we can then talk about what is really going on and come up with some sort of plan. People want to be heard. This is a universal truth. And heard means really listen and try your hardest to do that without judgment. These conferences don't always go well, though. Sometimes parents don't calm down and they convince themselves that I'm the enemy. These situations will ultimately involve administration, and the situation is predictable. Almost always, it's a kid that feels the rules don't apply to him or her, and the parent defends this. Kinda tough to be in school where rules are our business. Whatever the case, helicopter or pissed, I kind of like conferences once I get going. I mean, this is what I do all day, every day. It's kind of nice to get to talk about it. Too bad it only happens twice a year. But conferences drain me, and I really can't define why. When they're over, I feel as if someone has sucked the life out of me. It's for this reason that I dread them. I will get to school at 6 a.m. on Monday, and I will not leave until at least 8:15 p.m. Then I have to drive home. I'm already struggling to be my best me, and not one but two 14-hour days next week is pretty daunting. At least I get Friday off to make up for the two long days. Friday, October 21st, 2016, 4 p.m. Maybe I could write a book about Pauline. It would be a comedy. No, no, it would be a murder mystery. As we were discussing figurative language and how alliteration can help your prose flow today in class, I could only think of one example. I would like to punch putrid Pauline in her pie hole. My first version said puffy lip. Then I realized I really didn't care where the punch landed, as puffy lip seemed too narrow of a target. The kids, who have no idea who Pauline is, loved my example. They think I'm an excellent writer. My little fantasy punch recipient took up my entire before school work time this morning. 15 minutes of it started with her complaining about students under the guise of what management strategies did I find effective in these three super specific scenarios that she had going on. Of course, there was no way she could even think about doing any of the suggestions that I gave her for a variety of excuses. But when she got to Phil Town, she led us down a path to an epic fight. Most of my colleagues know I'm pretty apathetic about most things school related. Should we choose school calendar A, B, or C? Don't give a shit. Should our classes run 49 minutes or 51 minutes? Don't give a shit. So and so is quitting to become a circus performer? Don't give a shit. Okay, I do give a little shit here. Common Core versus Kansas State standards? You guessed it, don't give a shit. But what I do give a shit about is these kids. Yes, I'm cynical to a point, but I really love them. Not all of them, but most of them. There are three that I don't love. So when Pauline began telling me what a horrible kid Phil Town was, she brought out the mama bear in me. Only a select few people have seen this side of me in meetings, but I am vicious and I won't back down. I think this reaction stems from seeing so many jackass teachers assume that everyone should see things from their superior upper middle class mindset, including adolescents that are barely getting their basic needs met. The belief by most is that somehow a 13-year-old should have college priorities, excellent study habits, and a superior organization skills. And if they have a crap home life, somehow it falls on this kid to overcome that. Where's your empathy, people? You are educators for crying out loud. Whoa, okay, I'm going 90 miles per hour. Whew, time to calm down. See, I can even talk to myself about this without getting riled up. So, Phil is one of the kids that I have ended up having twice. Sometimes we switch things around for a semester in ELA, and one of us will take a remedial class or an enrichment class. Anyway, I ended up having Phil in a hybrid sixth grade enrichment writing class. He was a reluctant, sullen student and showed signs from the get go of making poor friend choices. But his writing was a thing of beauty. Since he did not want to write and certainly did not want to publish anything, he and I did all of his assignments in a writing journal. He hand wrote page after page of whatever I required in class. So I started correcting, suggesting, and writing back to him in the same journal. Okay, I typed mine and stapled it in there, but my handwriting's awful. He ended up writing some of the most beautiful journal entries about the death of his father that I have seen a student produce. By the time he came into sixth grade, his dad had already been dead 2 years. About halfway through the year, after reading all of these haunting journal entries, I went to talk to the guidance counselor about whether he was receiving any counseling services. I was informed that Phil was fine. His dad had been dead 2 years, and he showed no signs of needing services, despite the counselor never having met with him. I question whether Charles, in fact, has any credentials that qualify him to be a counselor. So, Phil and I kept up the journaling. I cried more over that kid's journal entries than I have ever cried in my life. By the end of the year, he was a transformed kid, though. Talkative, bouncy, still making poor friend choices, but at least he was trying to avoid school trouble. We took some of his entries and put them into an essay format. Somehow I convinced him to enter this into a competition, and he ultimately won third place and received $150. Even in sixth grade, Phil was a big kid. He's huge now, like a linebacker. And I'll never forget the day he ran into my class carrying that letter saying he would be receiving a third place prize. He picked me up and carried me around the room for about 10 seconds, yelling, "Yes!" like people do when their sports team does something great. It was shocking for everyone, but also hilarious. I drove to the college that sponsored the competition and saw him get the award, but I still have a picture of us together that his mom took. And this kid almost took a punch for me once. So perhaps I'm a little too connected, but Pauline is not connected at all. As soon as she started talking about him, I assumed he was messing around in class, and I made a mental note to just pull him aside next time I saw him and tell and tell him to knock it off. But no, apparently Pauline had decided to do some diagnostic testing of her own to determine where her students were. She's been giving a series of reading and writing prompts to get several samples that she feels overall will show a clear picture of the student's present level of performance. What about the cause and effect, fact and opinion, logical fallacy stuff they should be doing to prep for the debate project? I asked her. Oh, she's decided to put that to the side and let Maureen do that when she got back. It's not part of the Common Core standards. The hell it's not. And her diagnostics already show that her students are lacking in other crucial areas. The point here, she reminded me, is that Bill is refusing to take any more diagnostic tests, and he intentionally skipped school 2 days this week so he wouldn't have to. I'm not clear on how she knows he skipped school intentionally. I think that's her assumption. When he showed up yesterday, he flat out told her he would not take any more diagnostic tests, and he asked to speak to administration, which she wouldn't allow him to do. She railed on and on about what a disrespectful punk he was, and she would not rest until that last diagnostic test was taken. Okay, in my defense, I started out calmly. I tried to explain that he had extenuating circumstances due to his family situation. He did miss a lot of school lately, mainly because it seemed like his mom was sick, and he was by her side if she had a hangnail, which is understandable. And that he had one of the top state assessment scores in ELA last year. One diagnostic was not going to make or break her data, and she should move on. Her eyes narrowed and she crossed her arms over her chest, leaning back in my chair that she had pulled out when she interrupted my morning routine. She smirked and told me she wasn't that kind of teacher. She would not let him win. And I snapped. I informed her that the kind of teacher she was a substitute. Perhaps she should look up what her job description was. Or better yet, if she wanted to control all aspects of the classroom, she should go out and find a teaching job, because this was not a teaching job, it was a sub job, which meant she was filling in for someone else that had an actual teaching job. Smirk gone, score one for me. Then I told her she needed to get her ass back on track to teach some persuasive because that's where we were headed, a persuasive paper. If she was not comfortable with debate, so be it. Skip to the paper portion. But if she continued to test kids that had already been tested and ignore the plans that the classroom teacher had left, I would have to call a meeting with administration because according to our district curriculum map, we teach persuasive reading and writing through December. Shit. I just passed a cop and I was going 80. Please, please. Okay, okay. He's not turning around. Anyway, after a pause, shockingly, she became humble and she said she would look over the materials again to see how she could make them work for her. And she left. Hmm. I guess that wasn't really an epic fight. Maybe it just felt that way because I was so worked up. Still Friday, October 21st, 2016, 8 p.m. My throat is starting to hurt. I hope to hell I am not getting sick.